Now, was Mel Brooks' brain the one you gave me? How did Young Frankenstein, 1974, trick you? A lot of the movie's most important scenes were cut or shortened to hide dark secrets that would have made people angry and made them leave the theaters. Did you know that the movie you watched was only a small part of the real story? There were deleted scenes and crazy times behind the scenes that people never knew about that made people laugh and feel silly. When it came out in 1974, Young Frankenstein was both a great comedy and a monument to Universal's old horror movies, making fun of them in ways that no one had ever seen before. Gene Wilder plays Frederick Frankenstein, who goes into the house where his ancestors lived and finds his grandfather's crazy experiments. He then faces the huge monster, the stupid Igor, and the beautiful Inga. But there is another truth behind all that crazy and funny stuff. Many scary and dark scenes had to be cut from the movie so that it would fit with the culture at the time. Some scenes, like the monster sneaking into Elizabeth's room, are now highly condemned as being brutally violent toward women and others. They had to be res-hot dozens of times because one actor kept breaking character. Get ready to find out the darkly funny and shocking facts behind this classic movie. That scene is one of the most vilified and terrifying ones. For only $2.8 million, Mel Brooks' black and white parody masterpiece Young Frankenstein burst in 1974, making over $86 million at the box office. It was the second highest grossing comedy of the year and kept Fox from going bankrupt. Roger Ebert said it was Brooks' smoothest humor. A work that left behind more than just laughter. But not many people knew that while the audience laughed, the actors were scared because the shooting was so mysterious and tense. It was a test of how strong you are mentally, physically, and morally. What are you? What do you want? What would you like to do to me? Relax. I'm not scared of you. The most talked about part of the movie was when the monster broke into Elizabeth's room. At first, Brooks made it to be a straight parody of a violent scene in Bride of Frankenstein where Boris Karloff's monster showed sexual aggression without meaning to. Brooks's version has the monster getting out of the house and storming into Elizabeth's room all of a sudden. When she goes to see Frederick, she wakes her up in a way that is both scary and funny, and the whole crew is out of breath. The dark lights, loud screams, and heavy breathing got worse. Boyle scowled and made angry hand movements. When Elizabeth realized what a huge monster it was, she responded in a very strange way, which turned her fear into an operatic farce. It was a twisted take on old love tropes, with the supposed victim turning into a lustful bride. It was funny, but it caused a lot of controversy. When looked at today, especially after #HatsMeToo, the scene has been harshly criticized for making sexual violence seem normal through humor. Some reviewers have called it a rape comedy, pointing out that the fact that Elizabeth is being dragged from bed and pinned down can't just be explained by a later joke. The shooting behind the scenes was also very tense. It took a long time to film the scene. When he was 39 and fresh off of drugs, Peter Boyle had to put on 5 hours of makeup every day and walk around in 6-inch platform boots that were taller than Con. Boyle added extra growls and violent moves on the spot, which made the crew go completely silent. She paused, Madeline Kahn. But made up the woof to make things more fun. The scene almost didn't happen at all. Some people laughed when they got mixed test screening feedback, but many parents complained that it was rude. In the end, they kept it to keep the film's highest point of parody, adding situational humor to lighten it and balance out the horror comedy tone that makes up Young Frankenstein. This is why the test shows in 1974 were known as Hollywood's secret graveyard, where the audience unknowingly chose what happened to many funny, strange, or even beautiful scenes that will never be seen again and will only live on in the memories of the cast and team. 2. Frederick sneaking into Inga's room in the scene that was cut. A short video clip showed one of the darkest scenes that no one had ever seen. After their first day in the castle, it had more to say about Frederick and Inga's bond. Frederick sneaks into Inga's room through a dark hallway while wearing a gothic robe and carrying a light. It's a creepy and romantic scene. He says to Inga, "I can't sleep. I have dreams about experiments and you." Inga is shocked and happy when Frederick asks to sit down while she brushes her hair by the bed. As they talk about more personal and fun things, Frederick flirts awkwardly through science like lightning hitting the heart, which leads to a clumsy kiss. "Oh, Doctor, you're so electric" was a moment made up by Terry Garr. It was funny and a love horror parody. Frederick has to hide under the bed when Igor knocks on the door without warning. The scene ends with Brooks' signature awkward comic rhythm. They did cut out the whole scene, though. not just because of how sexual or fast-paced it is. In the early 1970s, audiences in both the US and Europe were still cautious about how comedies portrayed relationships between men and women. Men sneaking into a woman's private room, even for a romantic reason, was seen as breaking social rules and could be seen as insulting or wrong. Producers knew that even in parody or horror humor, people still wanted relationships to stay moral and socially acceptable, with closeness kept low-key. Also, the closeness between them, Frederick talking while sitting next to Inga and kissing her, seemed too bold for people who watched in the early 1970s. What seems funny and innocent now was too forward back then. People liked light-hearted romances that didn't drag on or break the rules. So, the scene with Frederick Inger at night crossed a moral line, and Brooks and Wilder had to take it out to avoid ratings problems and criticism. 3. The reading of the will. There was a time when the name Frankenstein. A forgotten memory from the beginning of the show was a spooky scene with family secrets and echoes of the past that theatergoers had never seen before and could only find in drafts and old footage. Friedrich Agatha, Helene, Wolfgang Marlene, and daughter Anastasia Frankenstein stand nervously around a phonograph box that belonged to Baron Beaufort von Frankenstein in a dark, gloomy room lit only by flickering candles. There is a lot of excitement in the air. There are fights in both German and English, and every word is full of anger and greed. It's been 70 years. One more second, please? What if her uncle didn't include her in the will? The record plays, and the needle makes noise. And the serious voice of Baron Beaufort fills the room with Beaufort von Frankenstein. I'm 83 years old, and I want this to be my last will and testament. It should be read on my 100th birthday. He gives everyone an equal share of the estate, but he scolds his son Victor severely for bringing shame on the family through crazy trials. There was then a sudden turn. If my grandson Frederick doesn't become famous as a doctor, I'll leave everything to him. Interference makes the record rattle, which makes the person laugh out loud. The way to be saved. Put yours up. The room is filled with shock. When Frederick's family members hear that he is the 5th best brain doctor, they gasp. There were a lot of oh and shit sounds mixed in with the German talk. Lawyer Cornelius Waldman says, the law is the law, and he sends Herr Fockstein to America to tell Frederick. The scene ends with a funny commotion that explains the Frankenstein family tree. Victor as Baron Beaufort's great-grandfather to fix a consistency mistake that wasn't in the final cut. It was mostly cut out for length reasons. The 7-minute scene slowed down the beginning of the movie. Brooks wanted the story to go straight to the crazy comedy and not the family fights. The scene is still on the DVD, though, as an Easter egg to honor the tragic and funny nature of the Frankenstein family. For, the street violinist scene was only in Gene Wilder's 4-page first draft. It was never fully shot. On DVD or Blu-ray, there are only 2 minutes of footage left. After Frederick and Herr Fockstein leave the will reading, it happens at night on the streets of Transylvania. A strangely familiar tune sounds like it could be from Transylvania as they walk through dark streets. John Morris wrote the leitmotif for the lullaby. In front of a streetlight, an old man with a violin plays. Frederick stops in his tracks, moved by memories of his childhood and family history. You're playing a song for my family. How do you know? He asks. The fiddler tells a funny but creepy story about how ghosts inspired his tune. But Herr Fockstein, angry that he will miss the train, breaks the violin in two. As a dark joke, the old fiddler takes both halves with his mouth open. As the tune fades, Frederick guilty picks up the pieces, which sets the stage for Frau Blücher's violin motif later on. This scene wasn't used because it made it hard to tell the difference between the actor and the character. The actor's awkward facial expressions and bad habits are too much like his real self, which could ruin the joke. Brooks and Wilder were afraid that people would see the actor instead of the character, which would hurt the rhythm and comedic mask of the movie. So, it was left out to keep the over-the-top theatrical tone of each part. The scene was meant to honor the Frankenstein score by combining scary and funny parts, but it ended up being too long for the finished version. 5th, Frederick tries to be sweet. Come stay with me? Tell me exactly how fast is the speed of light. This cutscene of Frederick and Inga falling in love happens right after they get to the house and look around the lab. The missing video, which is about 1 minute and 50 seconds long, has a romantic, candlelit mood with a touch of parody. Even though it wasn't shown in theaters, it shows a different side of Frederick. He's naive, awkward, and trying to flirt in his own unique way. Frederick stumbles over science facts as he tries to hide how nervous he is while trying to impress Inga. Did you know, Inga, that light moves faster than sound? Or does sound move faster than light? Not at all. Hold on. Light moves at 186,000 miles per second, while sound moves more slowly, like thunder after lightning. After that, he tries to make a link between love and science. I feel like your heart beats faster than light. Inga laughs at how awkward he is. Wilder adds more nonsense on the spot. Sound moves more slowly than light. That's why you see lightning before you hear thunder. Is it the other way around? There is a bad kiss at the end of the scene. Frederick's innocence and Inga's quiet elegance are very different from each other. It's both funny and sweet, which fits with the movie's theme of love versus science. It was taken out because it wasn't funny enough for the time. In the mid-1970s, when people liked faster pacing and bolder parodies like the huge Schwanstucker scene, the slow, sweet humor seemed out of style. Later, AV Club praised its subtle wit and emotional depth, but Brooks cut it out to keep the film's crazy pace and signature madcap energy. Keeping it would have slowed things down and taken away from Brooks's desire for a wild edge. Do you think this scene would have made the movie more interesting if it had stayed? Say what you think. 6. This is a darkly funny side scene from Jack Sprat, a highwayman that was in early drafts and scripts but was never fully filmed. The story takes place between when the monster was lost in the forest and when it met the blind hermit. Jack Sprat the highwayman, a thin, sneaky figure, appears on a pitch-black road. He stands in the monster's way while holding an old gun and yelling, "Stand up and give your gold or your life." You don't have any gold, but that brain looks like it's worth something. The nursery rhyme Jack Sprat couldn't eat no fat gave this thief the idea to become a dieting thief who only stole thin parts like brains and hearts. With a touch of dark humor, it's a clever parody of everyday cowboy movies. The monster lifts his shaking hands, which makes Sprat fire into the air. The monster is still clumsy after being resurrected. But when Jack Sprat sees how big the monster is, he gets scared, runs away, and trips over a bush. As the scene ends, the monster picks up the gun and bends it like a toy. In the background, laughter that sounds like a cartoon can be heard. Gene Wilder made up the line on the spot to add a highwayman element from old British horror movies while making fun of nursery rhymes. This scene was cut from the official shoot, though, because it didn't make sense and didn't move the story forward. Not many people know that the highwayman Jack Sprat was also thought to be too dark. By the rules of the time, and if it had been made public, it probably would have been banned. For younger or more sensitive viewers, the image of Jack Sprat aiming for his victims' brains or hearts, along with the dark humor that went along with it, had a grotesque but strong effect. The scene crossed the limits that early 70s American studios typically allowed in comedies, especially those mixing gothic parody. Also, seeing the monster face a thief who was trying to steal a brain and then the gun being bent like a toy was both funny and frighteningly violent, making it hard to take in many ways. Brooks and Wilder chose to take it out because they knew it could cause trouble and take away from the film's happy mood. In what way do you think this scene would have made the movie more interesting? Beyond the scenes brutally deleted for violating 1970s moral standards. Young Frankenstein also has a lot of mysterious moments behind the scenes that most people don't know about, like failed takes where Gene Wilder, Terry Gah, and other players had to do scenes over and over again, trying to get every expression, stumble, and laugh just right. What looks effortless on screen actually came from immense work every glance. Every hand movement could ruin an entire scene, forcing the team to restart intense but hilarious silence. Some of these mistakes can only be seen in test video or script notes, but they add to the movie's secret charm. They reveal the illusion of cinematic perfection. The laughter on screen might have been bought with sweat, awkwardness, and accidental mistakes that the audience never saw. Let's look around some more. 7. Marty Feldman bites Madeline Kahn's mink scarf. When Marty Feldman bit Madeline Kahn's mink scarf on the set of Young Frankenstein, it became one of the most famous things about the movie. It was very hard to film the scene without breaking character because Feldman and Kahn were so good at making each other laugh that the whole set was laughing. Wilder and Brooks had a hard time staying calm so they wouldn't mess up the take, even during practices. There was a rare shot of Elizabeth entering the castle wearing her expensive mink scarf. Igor, played by Marty Feldman, suddenly bent down and bit the tail of the fur hard, sending white hairs flying like summer snow. Sticked a real mink worth $50 each in his mouth and spit them out while eating them like gum. He then smiled slyly. Gene Wilder freaked out, Madeline Kahn screamed, and the whole set fell apart with laughs. A record for the movie had to be res-hot almost 15 times because Feldman had to stop in the middle of a scene every time he bit. Mel Brooks yelled "cut" from behind the board. "Marty, those minks cost $50. The scene was ultimately cut from the final cut because it was too wild and didn't fit with the tone of refinement Brooks was going for early in the film. The pick. Feldman's evil grin was the only thing that was kept to show that he was crazy without slowing down the story too much. 8. The classroom scene. Next was another bad take, this time in a medical school classroom. Frederick Frankenstein, played by Gene Wilder, was giving a serious speech about the nervous system when all of a sudden he lost it. Tragedy. Tragedy. No way around that. For me, he then laughed so hard that he cut himself on the thigh with a knife. The fake blood got all over the place, making the kids in Terriga laugh so hard they couldn't hold it together. Wilder kept cutting 12 more times, making up lines as he went along. "Oh, I got it wrong. I meant to say fate, not density." By the 9th take, Cloris Leachman yelled from behind the scenes, "Gene, stop it. I need to go to the bathroom." The room was shaking with laughter. It was on purpose that Wilder broke character because he thought the scene was too serious and too similar to the original Frankenstein. Mel Brooks liked the take so much that he almost kept it, but test viewing showed that people laughed too soon, which ruined the build-up to the later scene where they put on the Ritz. 9. Boyle takes a sleep aid. The next scene that caused chaos was when Frederick and Igor gave Peter Boyle a sedative while he was covered in monster makeup. When the fake needle touched Boyle on the neck, he laughed so hard that the sound could be heard through his mask. Gene Wilder fell to the ground, and Marty Feldman ran around screaming, "It's alive!" with a laugh. The fact that Boyle was already upset about his past made it even worse when a fake needle touched his neck. As a Jesuit monk, which made him very sensitive to fake pain. By the 5th take, Boyle began singing "Put on the Ritz" early in the injection, which made the whole crew dance. Mel Brooks had to stop shooting for 20 minutes so that everyone could calm down because of all the laughter. Even though it was funny, the moment broke the tension that was needed before the monster rose up. Brooks only kept the take where Boyle growled instead of laughing. 10. Frau Blücher, Cloris Leachman puts her hand over her mouth when the horses neigh. In another scene that had to be res-hot more than once, horses neighed loudly every time someone yelled Frau Blücher. This added both fear and humor as a ghostly effect. But during the first take, Frau Blücher, played by Cloris Leachman, laughed so hard that she had to cover her mouth. When her laugh came through the mics, it shocked the team and made them all laugh out loud. Leachman didn't know that Brooks came up with the horse neigh sound on the spot. In later takes, she overacted by acting scared, but she laughed so hard that she had to leave the set. Brooks saved a short clip of her happy face from the extras of the secret behind-the-scenes Easter egg. 11. The chase scene in the forest. During the chase through the bush, Inspector Kemp's fake arm switched from right to left between shots. Kenneth Mars saw the mistake and yelled, "My arm," in one take. It has been taken over and through Marty Feldman's fake limb. Feldman put it on his head and danced around like a little monster, making a strange and crazy moment. Mars made up that the arm had a mind of its own and was chasing Igor and hitting him with itself, which turned out to be a comedy mistake. Mel Brooks filmed the slow-motion repeat just to show how crazy and happy things were on set. The unscripted scene was too long and disorganized, so it was cut to keep things moving along. However, it lives on in the famous 10-minute blooper reel on YouTube, where the actors can be seen laughing so hard they could barely stand as they played the crazy, funny spirit of Young Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein's cutscenes show a whole new side of the movie. Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks tried out some weird, funny, and sometimes scary ideas while still paying homage to great movies. Each scene, from the creepy violins and awkward kisses to the highwayman Jack Sprat, shows more creativity and depth than the theater cut could hold. Have you ever thought about whether these scenes were kept? Would Young Frankenstein have stayed its crazy masterpiece or turned into something more strange and romantic? Leave your thoughts in the box below. Thanks for watching this great movie and looking into parts you might not have seen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video if you like learning about deleted scenes, secrets that happen behind the scenes, and Easter eggs that are buried. Do you want a certain scene to be fixed up or looked at in more depth? Write what you think below. Please get in touch with us.